87 majestic years. He seemed to be a rare exception to most norms of aging until just a few days ago. If he had a few extra years, he could have snapped a few more photos with his trusty Nikon camera, but we are thrilled that he already snapped tens of thousands of photos or more, and we can still treasure those as he did. He could have sailed a few more boats, but he loved the one he had, and one seemed to be enough for him. It was his pride and joy all through his 40s. He could have had a few more dates with Mom before he said to her, "So, are we going to get married or not?" But in this, as in most things that he did, he got it right the first time. I suppose he could have done a few more surgeries and practiced medicine a few more years, but by the time he retired from medicine, he had already helped thousands of people all around the world. He saved and dramatically improved many lives, way beyond what anybody should expect. He could have savored a few more Klondike bars and Oreos, as he was so inclined to do up until just a few days ago. But let there be no doubt, he had his share of those desserts, and he also had peaches and cream too. It would be nice if he could swim a few more laps, watch a few more Seinfelds, hike a few more miles through Olmsted, and read a few more books. But I don't think anybody should focus on all the things he didn't get to do, because he did so much while he was here. It would be a shock if more than a handful of people ever delved into as many fields of knowledge as gleefully and deeply as my dad. He got off to a mediocre start, but he gathered momentum through the years until he had excelled in an astonishing range of activities. At various times, he was an accomplished runner, skier, tennis player, bicyclist, and swimmer. He was merely average at golf. He was very good at taking naps, I realized a few minutes ago. He had a skill for that. And his lifelong constants were heaps of reading and books and classical music and a fierce interest in ethics. Through my teen years, when my dad had a captive audience in the car, he would blast classical music and he would quiz me about the composers, symphonies, movements. I know nothing about those things. I still don't. And his knowledge was so vast about those things, he was legitimately surprised every time when I didn't know. As everybody here knows, he added on a new passion every couple of years, and he became startlingly knowledgeable about Shakespeare, opera, world history, French literature, birds, old movies, and football. He was not only a great father, but a superb grandfather as well. He took great care of Mom, Beverly, and she took great care of him. I could not ask for more in how he related to and inspired my daughters. It is sort of fitting that Grandpa would leave the party just a little bit too early. He was famous for saying, just a little past the peak of most social gatherings, and before most people were ready, "Beverly, it's time to go." He would never overstay his welcome. And then after a slight delay imposed by Mom, he would dash out. Ever since I was a kid, Arthur set a fearsomely high standard for excellence. I'm not really sure where he got this from, but it was always there all my life. With this unusually high and resounding standard for excellence in so many things, I think he elevated most people he met, and every single person who is here. His energy remains so strong. I feel good that his thunderous standards will continue to elevate all of us, and they will live on for a long time to come.
So, Robert, Dad finally taught you how to cry. Dad was the first one always who had tears. Tears of joy, tears of happiness, and tears of sorrow. But I want to talk to you about something else, which is, who among us hasn't made a mistake? I've made plenty in my life. But there's one decision that I made in August in 1986 that has given me more joy, more direction, and more love in my life than I could have imagined. You see, we don't get to pick our parents. We don't get to pick our grandparents. We don't get to pick our siblings. But we do, however, get to pick our in-laws. I fell in love with my husband, Robert, only after I met his father, my father-in-law, Arthur, because I knew upon that first meeting that this extraordinary man, Robert's dad, was a role model for what my future husband might become. I wanted a part of that family, and I wasn't wrong. I remember vividly that August, sitting at the picnic table, waiting for Dr. Lehrman to return from a surgery he had performed that day. I was so nervous that he would accept me, because Robert had painted him as this intellectual giant. I wondered if I could possibly be thought smart enough to meet a man of this stature. Dr. Lehrman immediately put me at ease. Engaging, gregarious, utterly charming. We talked for hours even then about politics, law, Shakespeare, classical music, travel, and breasts. Yes, I said breasts. He was a plastic surgeon after all, so at the dinner table, we actually talked about different sizes. But I also realized then and learned then that his life devoted to reconstructive surgery was giving people back a quality of their life. What happened that night was born a mutual admiration society, one that only strengthened over the next 31 years. I adored, with my sister-in-law Paula, who later became a part of our family, Dr. Lehrman, and we know that he loved us too. Throughout the coming years, Dad taught us all many, many things. Here are just 4 of those lessons that I'd like to share with you. Authenticity. Don't settle for someone else's dream. Create your own course and sail away. I marveled at the way that Dad Lehrman shaped his own destiny. Studying medicine first in Holland and then in the United States, he was fiercely proud of Albany Medical School. And you may not know that he actually has plaques in that medical library with his name on it, because he actually bestowed his entire medical book collection to the place that first taught him. He insisted that we visit Albany Medical School when we were in town, and we did. Second lesson, passion. Find something you like and go with it. Allow your intellectual curiosity to enhance your life. There were certain things that we did enjoy together. Biking. Robert, Paul, and I took many excursions with him. Exercise. He was fanatic about keeping in good shape. Walking. I remember the walks to watch the sunrise when they lived in Florida, and then we'd go to McDonald's for that cup of McDonald's coffee that never tasted so good together. Cooking. Although mussels and salmon artero were clearly his specialties, he let you know it, and he always let you know that there was just enough food. Reading French literature. Flaubert, Hugo, comparing characters after we shared stories, listening to classical music, sipping wine, hiking in Umstead or in the Adirondacks, comparing notes of our travel. But we always didn't agree on everything. For instance, recently he found boxed wine, not a fan in this end. It was convenient for him, and he told me that it would keep well and he wouldn't have to finish the bottle. Leaving our daughter once on the side of the Adirondack Peaks, thinking she would join us just a few feet ahead when we were actually a quarter mile away. We laughed about that just 2 weeks ago. Going to the symphony with Sydney and Mom within the past year together, where he just couldn't understand John Adams' classical music with all that percussion that he detested. He was just so happy, however, that Sydney could appreciate something other than rock and roll. Next lesson, resilience. Do not give up. Work hard, then work extra hard. Stay strong, focused, and disciplined. It illustrated his life. So when I last saw Dad 2 weeks ago, I was on crutches and he was using this cane. We were supposed to have a race together when we next met. By default, I think I just won, but I have to say, since Dad was a runner and he had a determination that no one else could compare to, I bet had we had the chance to get together again, he would have beat me. And the last lesson, finding treasures in family and friends. Dad absolutely adored his family. His love for Mom was the real thing. He found a gem and he knew it all those years ago. His love for Margie, for Robert, for Jim, for Paula, and for me, unparalleled. His appreciation and regular communication with his friends, his neighbors, his family, cousins abroad. But within the past 2 decades, when Grandpa really lit up is when he talked about his grandchildren. He absolutely adored Corey and Sydney and Joe and Gus and Bert. And if you would listen, and even if you weren't listening, he would tell you a story about them, of how proud he was. So Dad, although we each developed our own relationship with you, we'll carry on your life lessons of authenticity, passion, resilience, and the true treasures in family and friends. We'll honor these life lessons as we now lean on each other to get through our periods of grief and sorrow. Each bird that won't be photographed, each musical note that won't be heard, each waitress that won't hear your funny or not so funny story will be an opportunity for us to reflect on the joy that you brought to us and the values that you gave us. We will carry on your legacy in our hearts and in our actions. And for the record, I did hit the jackpot when you allowed me to be part of your family. But I miscalculated something when I thought back in 1986 that you'd be a role model for your son. Because Dad, you are a role model for us all, and we love you.
It's impossible to put into words what our Gramps meant to us. Our Gramps was many things to many people. To me, he was everything. He was also a crybaby, which is why I have his handkerchief. He was the definition of what a perfect grandfather was, and more. Supportive, affectionate, proud, thoughtful, always had a joke up his sleeve, and was always prepared to teach you a life lesson, whether you wanted one or not. My Gramps was the most incredible person in the world and set the bar high for other people that enter my life. He was a true Renaissance man and wildly intelligent about so many things: medicine, history, art, cinema, photography, music, astronomy, language, just to name a few. You were a role model to all of us, showing us right from wrong and delivering everything you did with such class. He was a helpless romantic, and some of my favorite times with him were eating popcorn and watching classic movies. I've dreaded this day, the day that I would lose the person that I look up to most, but the day does come. It's not going to be easy because I don't know what I'm going to do when I don't see an educational email or photo of a bird in my inbox. It's not going to be easy because I don't know how I'll arrive to Raleigh and not have a text message already waiting. I've been tracking your flight. The pilot did a good job and your Uber is on the way. The Uber was him. It's not going to be easy because I'm not sure who to joke about your secret camera spending accounts with and hiding it from Grandma. Sorry, Gran. I'm also not sure who is going to carve our Thanksgiving turkey with the precision of a surgeon. And it's certainly not going to be easy wanting to share highs and lows, travels, and milestone occasions with you. But it will be easier knowing that you are still very much here because you are part of all of us. You have been transformative in all of our lives, and so many people you met throughout, both personally and professionally. It will be easier because I've seen my grandma's strength as she tells me that Grandpa wouldn't want us to be a wimp, even though I'm a wimp right now. It will be easier when I travel and see my grandpa everywhere I go. And it will be easier when I taste a Klondike bar, a Diet Dr. Brown's cream soda, or a ripe summer peach. I feel so lucky to be a Lehrman and have you as our patriarch. We are all better people because of you, and I love you.
In the book of Ecclesiastes we read, "Kechol zman be'et lecho chefetz tachat hashamayim." There is a time for everything, a time for every experience under heaven, a time for being born and a time for dying, a time for destroying and a time for healing, a time for keeping and a time for discarding, a time for silence and a time for speaking, a time for war and a time for peace. And in honor of Arthur Lehrman, I add a few more. A time for photography and a time for sailing, a time for family and a time for friends, a time for studying and a time for studying, a time for algebra and a time for literature, a time for opera but no time for rock and roll, a time for Klondike bars and a time for ice cream. We've heard the stories, we've heard the memories. We know that this is a special man, a man whose memory is living on in those who have spoken and shared stories about him. A time for throwing stones, a time for gathering stones, a time for seeking and a time for losing, a time for keeping and a time for discarding, a time for being born and a time for dying, a time for every experience under heaven. Zichrono livracha, may his memory be for a blessing, as we all say. We turn to El Malei Rachamim, our memorial prayer, and I invite you to please rise. El Malei Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Hametzei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei HaShekhinah, Mikroshim Utehorim, Kivzohar Akiyam Asirim, Et Nishmat Avram, Shehalach Le'olamo, Ba'al HaRachamim, Yastireh hu b'sefer k'nafal le'olamim. V'yitzror ha'chaim ad nishmato Adonai hu nachalato. V'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo v'nomar Amen. God of abundant mercy, God most high, may the soul of our loved one who has gone into eternity find the gift of perfect peace in your embrace, together with the holy and pure, whose light shines like the radiance of heaven. Compassionate God, hold him close to you forever, so that his soul may be bound up in the bond of life eternal. May he find a home with you, and may he rest in peace. Together we say, Amen. Adonai natan v'Adonai lokach, Yehi Shem Adonai mevarach. Adonai has taken, Adonai has given, Adonai has taken away. Blessed be the name of Adonai. We praise you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who forms us in the divine image, who nourishes and sustains us in your goodness. You cause all of us to die according to your wisdom. You know and number every soul. You implant immortal life within us. Blessed are you,